What's up, guys, and welcome to the channel. This is Tyler Tote. I was recently asked in the comments by one of the viewers, hey, can you talk more and in depth about passive income? You talk about this on several of your videos, but can you break down how you create it, what forms you guys have, and how you can use that to live the life you want? So we're gonna give the people what they want today. I am very excited to jump into this topic with you guys. I'll be honest, this is a topic I knew nothing about 7-8 years ago. Then I read an awesome book called Millionaire Next Door, which led me to find some other mentors around this and really start to unlearn the way I viewed money. This is what really started my path to freedom, was understanding that, I was on pace managing a bank I'd look at these retirement projections. They'd say, you can quit working when you're 66. And I thought, I don't accept that. I'm not gonna work for 40 years so that I can maybe get 10, 15 towards the end to live the way I want. And I'm not gonna work 5 or 6 days a week so that I can get 1 or 2 off. And I'm not gonna work 49 or 50 weeks a year so I can get 2 or 3 off. I wanna live life on my terms. So this concept of passive income, getting paid while you sleep, getting paid more than twice a month, how do you create streams that come in, really started to illuminate my mind, got me really curious. So I want to teach with you guys exactly what I learned today. The first thing I want to touch on before I jump into what we own and how we've gotten there is, it's very important to notice what is your nut every month. This should be step one. So my wife and I, we didn't change any spending habits 7-8 years ago when we looked at this. We just literally looked back at all of our bills and we said, what's it cost us to live every month? Let's just use a nice round number for you and say it's $5,000. So you run your family, you pay insurance, you groceries, whatever, all the stuff costs you $5,000 a month. So essentially the way I started looking at it was, every $5,000 we get socked away is 1 month less I have to trade my most valuable asset being time for dollars. So how do we put those dollars to work then, and can we build up $5,000 in passive income coming in, then your work optional? And to be very honest, start to lower it. That was big step one for me and my wife. Hey, what subscriptions do we have that we're paying for that we don't need? What are some things that we're doing here that we can lower that lifestyle a little bit? That's been a very big key for us when we started that. The first one and the biggest investment for us we made about 7 or 8 years ago was farmland. Now this kind of just fell into our lap. To be honest, I come from a family of farmers. My grandfather was a farmer, many uncles that farm, long line, and they owned farmland. Well, some of our family was selling and they wanted to keep it in the family. And so my wife and I got a really, really good deal to go in and buy about 68, 69 acres of farmland. Back then when we purchased it, I believe it was $7,200, $7,300 an acre. This was over a $500,000 investment, really big for us at the time. We had to take out a pretty big loan to do so. But the way we looked at it is we're gonna pay this thing off very aggressively. It now pays us about $30K a year passively, and it will for the rest of our lives. The even cooler thing is that ground that we bought 7-8 years ago for $7,200, $7,300 an acre is now going for $19,000, $20,000 an acre. As farmland becomes less scarce, this resource gets a lot more valuable. So that's been a great thing to increase our net worth. We paid it off in about 5 or so years. We attacked this thing every extra penny we had. We would pay down this thing. And so for the rest of our lives now, we start the year with $30,000 of income because of this. Now, this is not a get-rich-quick scheme. Obviously, you're putting up quite a bit of capital up front to get this, but the way we looked at it is, we'll have this for the rest of our lives. We have to pass this down to our children. My parents own other farmland. Someday we want to pass this all down to our kids' is my hope. And so that was a big one for us in the first thing. Along these same lines, you can look at farmland, you can look at rentals. I think a lot of people do rental income. I think that's another awesome strategy. You have a great brother-in-law who I think he owns 18, 19, 20 properties, something like that. He's gotten to the point where when he pays off all those properties, which he probably has, all he's really doing is collecting rent checks. That's his job. He hires a manager to manage all of them. Now, I will say that's a little bit less passive to me. I am not handy. My wife is the one that fixes things in our house. She's an engineer. I'm just not a guy that's handy. So to me, owning rental properties was never really an option. And so again, guys, as I start to talk through this, you should be thinking, if I got a couple $100,000 sitting in a savings account earning 0.4% or whatever Chase Bank or any of these banks are paying you nowadays, that's just a big mistake. You need to put your dollars to work. Those dollars should be earning more dollars. I would suggest right here, you find a mentor, you find somebody that knows what they're doing before you just dive in with $500,000 or a couple $100,000 or get into this. There's some great ones that I can recommend if you want to message me. We got very lucky. Again, I come from a generation of farmers, so I got to sit down with my uncle who's been in this game for 50 years. He told us this was a really great investment for us. It has been. It's been a wonderful thing. But again, I don't think I would recommend just diving into rental properties until you really know what you're doing. we live in an era where it's never been easier to know what you're doing. So again, a lot of great resources out there. There's a lot of great mentors you can hire or find their great content for free. If you need me to introduce you to any of those, I got a pretty big network now with a following of a couple 100,000 just on Twitter. So let me know. Happy to plug you guys in. This next one, I do feel like I'm a little bit of an expert on. I've put a lot of time into this, about 4.5 or so years, and that's creating digital courses, creating products, ebooks, things that you can sell online passively. Now, people always ask me, well, how do I get started at this? What do I write about? What do I talk about? I'm not an expert at this thing. And I just always tell people, what's a topic you could talk about for an hour with no practice? For me, when I looked at that, I said, here's some things I think I'm really good at. Again, I'm not the best in the world at these things, but I'm interested, I'm curious, I love learning about them, I love talking about them. And for me, it was fitness. I worked a 9-to-5 job. I gained about 18 to 20 pounds in the first couple years of that. And then I created strategies to say, you know what, I don't accept this. I'm not gonna keep going at this trend and be 60 pounds overweight in 5 years. I'm gonna take my life back. And so I created systems and rules for myself that clearly worked. And so I just wrote about those things in this book right here called 9-to-5 Fitness. It took me, a month or two to write. It's free to publish. You can put it on places like Gumroad, Amazon, tons of different places for free. And you can just sell that product and your knowledge that other people want to gain that and learn from it. Another topic that I had was fatherhood. I love being a dad. It's one of my favorite things. So I just wrote all about fatherhood and I interviewed other great dads and put that in the book and, have been selling that for a couple years. Another one was poker. I was a poker pro for a decade. I love the game. I love the mindset of the game. And so wrote a course on that and just shared everything I've learned at poker. So I sell those on Gumroad. I've also created another couple courses on marriage, on being a fit father devotional and a workout plan. Sell those on other platforms. But I have 5 digital products. And if you really look up here, this is just one of them, Gumroad, and this is completely passive. Once you write the content, it sells forever. So, if you're writing on topics that don't go out of style, now if you're going to write on a latest movie or something that's going to kind of a trendy type thing, sure, you're going to sell initially and not. But if you're writing on a topic like fatherhood or like poker or like fitness, these things are always going to be around. So to be quite honest with you guys, I don't even remember what I wrote in that first book 4 years ago, but not a week goes by I don't sell a copy or two. And that's just completely passive. It just dings my account and the money comes in. And so that's a huge one. And I'd challenge anybody to do this. My mom and I even wrote a book last year called Aliens and Undies. It's a kid's book. We just self-published, put it up on Amazon. There's a million different ways. This has never been easier. If anybody has any questions on this, hit me up. The last thing I'll say about the digital products and courses is it obviously helps to have a big audience. I tweeted at a wall for 5 or 6 months before I really gained any steam and started to grow an audience. So it probably doesn't make a ton of sense to write a bunch of courses if you don't have an audience. Now, again, you're going to see this is a very common theme. The farmland took a long time for it to pay off. The digital courses took a long time for them to pay off. But if you can delay gratification, you can continue to work when others might zone out, you can continue to put the work in, you get paid on these things forever. It's like you write the course 4 years ago and not a week goes by for the next 4 years that I'm not making money off this without doing any more work. And so to me, that's such a huge win. It's so worth it. I'd rather work very, very hard for 5 or 6 or 10 years than mindlessly work for 45. That was always the way I kind of thought about it. But obviously to grow an audience helps. I made a video on how to do that. I'll link it below as well. The third one, and this one's really cool. A lot of awesome people on Twitter really opened my eyes to this, but really putting your dollars to work is as easy as just owning stock. You can buy companies and buy shares of companies called dividend stocks that just pay you quarterly, some pay you yearly. However many shares you own, they just pay you a dividend on those shares. So it's a really cool thing. I'll go ahead and link a chart up here. This is 10 of them from the S&P 500. Now again, when I first started this, I had no clue about this. I just talked to some really smart people. I have an advisor, shout out to Drew, who, when we're getting ready to buy more, we just have a quick chat. Now there's a couple different ways you can go here. We have both. So we have growth stocks that, those are long-term things, man. Those are, we don't want to touch for 30, 40 years. That's just pure, you think Tesla is going to do great. Apple, a lot of these blue chip companies you can buy, they don't pay a dividend, but we have kind of one bucket of our stocks over there. That money is put to work over there. A second one is dividend stocks. So we buy only dividend stocks, and then you can track it monthly, which is really cool. And you can look at, now we're making, I remember when we first started, we were making like $5.50 a month in dividends. So every month we're getting paid $5.50, and it's like, man, I get that coffee's free every month, right? The cool thing is as you grow the account, it gets bigger and bigger. So you can think about, well, if you've got 100,000 invested and you're making, let's just say $300 or $400 a month off dividends. Well, think when you get $1 million invested, now you're making 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 a month off of just dividends for holding those companies. It's really become kind of a fun little game to grow that side account and look and say, oh, now we got $80 a month. And everything that comes in from dividends right now, me and my wife just continue to reinvest. We continue to buy more shares of these companies. And so you can see how that continues to snowball. And in a decade or so, we'll have a side portfolio that then we can take out of, never touching the principal, that'll pay us maybe $1,000, $1,500, $2,000 a month, whatever that might be. And so this is an awesome way and a cheat code to build wealth, again, that you're owning an asset that hopefully is appreciating, but also paying you quarterly, paying you monthly, paying you yearly to just hold the asset. So again, parking money in a savings account doesn't make a lot of sense when you have access to these things. The fourth one I'll mention is just subscribers, communities, YouTube channel, all kinds of other things like this. Now again, I believe right now I make about $1.25 per video. Now I have a very long-term vision with things, and to be honest, I didn't create this YouTube channel to make a lot of money on. I created it to put out content that hopefully helps a lot of people, and hey, if we end up making money, that's cool. The main goal with the YouTube channel is honestly just to help and build and network and grow. I find it a lot of fun to help people and put things out there. Been very blessed in my life, so I like to teach and help and share. But a cool thing about these communities, and again, they take a long time to build. I've been at this YouTube now for a couple years. We're approaching 10,000 subs. I'm amazed by that. I think that's incredible. That's awesome. We've gotten great feedback. Again, it took me about 4 years on Twitter to get a couple 100,000 followers and have 127, I believe, subscribers in there that pay $5 a month for extra content. So again, that's all passive. But again, I'm going to go back to this common theme. That took years to build. And so I really need you to unlearn, and this is what society kind of teaches you, is you get paid, you spend. You get paid, you spend. And we unlearned that. We don't need a lot of stuff. What we really value is our time. And so when me and my wife really got intentional about this 7-8 years ago and said, we're gonna buy appreciating assets, we're gonna buy things that make us money while we sleep. Guys, I looked last month, we got paid 16 different ways. 16 different small streams. It's been pretty incredible. Now, a lot of those, we had to work a year, 2 years. Farmland took us 5 years to pay off before we started collecting anything. And honestly, now when we even get paid by the farmland, we buy more dividend stocks, and it just keeps snowballing and keeps going. But if you're willing to delay gratification, you're willing to say, you know what, I'll drive an older car for the next few years because I'm going to pay myself first and buy appreciating assets. It takes time off how far you got to work. Again, I looked and it said, I can't retire from the bank till I'm in my mid-60s. And I just looked at it, every $5,000 I get is a 1 month less I have to work. And I remember writing my first digital course and I thought, if over the next 30 years it sells $5,000 worth, I'm retiring a month earlier. That's a win. That was kind of my thinking around it. Most of the friends in my circle, we didn't accept that. So we're going to create a life on our own terms. The reason I get to take my kids to school every day, pick them up, be at all their events, play at parks with them during the day when they're off, and really just be in full control of my time is because we own appreciating assets. At this point in our life, between a lot of these that I've mentioned, they cover about 80 to 85% of our monthly nut. Within a year, we'll be completely work optional. They'll cover 100% of our passive income. Now, I promise I'm not the kind of guy who just wants to go sit on a beach and sip margaritas. I'm gonna keep working. I love the things I do. And to me, creating a life like this where, I work a few hours a day on things I love, with people I love, feeling like I make an impact and help people, that was my ultimate goal. But I'd ask you today to just pause and be mindful and ask yourself, what's the life you want to create? I heard a really wise saying that, money should be in our head, but not in our heart. And I really feel like that. Money should be on your mind. It's an amazing tool that can buy you freedom and buy you the life you want. But at the end of the day, if you put $20 million in my bank account tomorrow, my day-to-day life is still going to be the same. So I tend to focus on that. I just tend to focus on how can I create the optimal life for me and my family. The first step of that is getting a clear vision of what the best life for you looks like. Get it down on paper. Research some of these things. Ask me questions. If I don't know the answer, I'll point you to the people that do. Create the life you want today. Buy your time back and be free. So guys, I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, like and subscribe really helps the channel out a lot. You guys go have the greatest day of your life. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to others. Buy appreciating assets. Your future self will thank you. Have the best day, guys.